Welcome everybody to the 100th episode of They Cast from the Coast.
Yay!
Very special for us because we had some time when we didn't put out episodes and we're putting out content regularly every week or so. So, you know what? This is good. We have reached 100 episodes, guys. I'm proud of us.
So am I.
I wish Aaron was here to celebrate this with us, but as we stated before during the rec episodes, Aaron is off doing absolute magic in the world of Haunt and preparing for some wicked projects, which we have coming up. Magic.
I'll do the Aaron hands. The Aaron hands.
That's right.
Tribute to Aaron. Fine,
Absolutely.
Josh, don't do it. Whatever.
So,
No.
Tim, for our 100th episode, please, what are we talking about tonight?
A very special little movie from 1985. We are going to talk about House.
Stay tuned. Tim, give us a synopsis, buddy.
Since you asked so nicely, absolutely. A troubled writer moves into a haunted house after inheriting it from his aunt. And then a bunch of scary stuff happens.
And a bunch of scary stuff happens. The greatest American hero moves into his aunt's house, and shit happens.
Hey, don't shit on William Cat. He was almost Luke Skywalker.
Not shitting on William Cat. Yeah, he was almost Luke Skywalker.
Almost Luke Skywalker, and it's so weird because of his really tight blonde
Jerry curls.
curls. Can you imagine that shit in a galaxy far, far away?
Far away.
It's pretty epic. It sounds pretty epic.
So, before we start, is it weird that I never knew this movie existed,
Yes.
but yet watched the shit out of House 2 when I was a little kid? It
A little
never
bit.
Came to the
because-
conclusion of there's probably something that predates House 2.
Well, it kind of
House
says that in the name of your favorite entry into the House universe, being House 2, which means there is one before that. But I find that odd. But hey, the movie House 2 was just so enchanting.
It really was.
I can absolutely understand little Josh not realizing that.
Just not even thinking, hey, there's probably another one of these.
He probably didn't even see the 2 at the end of it, to be honest. Squinty little eyes.
Written.
I mean,
right
he didn't even
Sharpie
House
on
the second
front of the
story and go,
bootleg VHS.
I wonder what the first story is. Like there was none of that. There was none of that shit. Like, I'm
But
sorry.
to be fair, House 2 doesn't even really. Josh just proved it. You don't need to see House to see House 2.
You do not. It is
I was
an
super
entirely
excited
different
when I
story.
found out there was a house.
And then I watched it.
They're gonna explain the Crystal Skull or something,
No.
and I was like, oh wait, no. they're
Okay,
not.
there are some really good points that I wish House 2 had better explanation for, but then again, there are points about those things that I'm really glad they didn't explain. So
That
we
they
get to
never
that
explained
when we
properly.
eventually talk about House 2, we'll talk about those, because one of my favorite things in almost any 80s movie exists in House 2, and
Is it
I
Bill?
can't... Shut
Is
up.
it Bill?
It's
Bill's my
the
favorite
random adventurer electrician
Bill.
Bill. Oh, I've seen this shit before, and he pulls out a sword out of his. Okay, we're not talking about House 2 right now. We're not talking about House 2 right now. So, moving on. So, we're talking about House 1. The first story. The story of Roger Cobb, the author, who moves into his aunt's house after basically inheriting it, by the sounds of it, when she commits suicide. And the weird shenanigans begin to occur. Yes, uh, starring obviously, as we had stated before, William Catt, and also starring George Wendt, who
Yeah.
I love, from his Cheers days, obviously. Which is funny because there's House 1 and House 2 have Cheers people in it. It's great that way. As well as Richard Mall, who is an underrated 80s actor for all intents and purposes. I mean, it's
Night Court.
Bull Shannon from Night Court. He's amazing. And I love him in Scary Movie too. He's great. So the whole idea here, once again, Roger Cobb, author, he's now divorced. There's a whole story here that occurs where it kind of jumps back and forth in timelines a little bit to explain why he's alone and taking over this his aunt's place, and it all has to do with the fact that he was married to an up and coming actress who is now winning awards, or actually in this one she doesn't win the award, but she's going to award shows and nominated and everything else. And they were living with his aunt in this house, and they had a son who disappeared in the pool. And she just basically blamed him the whole time, and it was a weird, haunting scenario where he just literally disappeared into nowhere. I will tell you, I like this movie quite a bit as we get into it. I'll leave obviously my final thoughts for as we go. But the story itself, I find really intriguing because it takes us between many different places and time periods within this guy's life as well. We find out about his Vietnam experience because he's now going to write a book about that, which is hilarious because the writing in this movie really shows what authors go through in that kind of a situation, because he's got his hardcore fans at the book signing at the beginning, and the moment that they hear that he's doing his tale from his Vietnam days, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's nice, and they just move on and shit. It was hilarious. But you gotta respect the fact that, once again, this was written by Fred Dekker, the same guy who gave us the Monster Squad movie, obviously, right? And many other things. I mean, Fred Dekker is friggin' Hollywood royalty, in my opinion. And it was directed by Steve Miner.
Hey, I feel like you use that term a lot. There can only be a select few.
No, he's like a duke, man. They're royalty, but they're...
I guess. All right. Okay.
I tried, Fred. I tried, man. I'm sorry. Just ignore these two guys. Duke Fred.
Hey, I'm not saying that he's not important, because he is. Monster Squad is amazing. House, pretty good. I'm not putting him down in any way, but I'm just saying that you use the term Hollywood royalty very willy-nilly. You got to have standards,
Sure.
Bud. Standards.
All right, having standards. Moving forward, moving on.
Hey, I don't like how you dismiss me.
Wow.
Steve Miner directed this, and it was produced by Sean Cunningham. So we get a powerhouse team that actually made this movie. Regardless of what way you look at it, we have a bunch of people who are basically responsible for some of the greatest 80s movies ever made. And horror movies, nonetheless, too. You know what I mean? Once again, Miner and Cunningham. We got the Friday the 13th series. We've got, once again, Fred Dekker. So it's really good, the way that this all kind of plans out. The story itself. Back to the story itself just a little bit here. When he moves into the house, he decides that he's going to put aside all the history of what he knows about what's going on there and the weird and the oddities. He's going to take his time. He's going to write a new story, his new story from the hallowed halls of this place. He's alone, so he's going to. Mm-hmm. But the quirky neighbors keep showing up. We've got George Wendt's character. What was his name? Oh, Harold.
Norm.
No. Well, in this, it was Harold.
Norm.
He'll always be Norm. And so Harold shows up, and he's the general neighbor that just kind of wants to be buddies and watch the game and eat a pizza and be there for his newfound possible friend. And then we have obviously what was it, Tanya, I want to say. Yeah. The blonde chick who basically shows up out of nowhere, who's diving into the pool and where the hell did you come from type of situation. And
his neighbors are way too comfortable.
They are. This is why I'm kind of bringing it up. Like, one just wants to be buddy, and the other one, she's just like using the pool because his aunt obviously used to let her, and it's
I don't know, man. Like, this is my fucking house. Get out of here, Norm.
get out of here, Tanya, if that's your real name. Ooh, Josh, that was spooky.
What?
Door just
The
opened.
door
up
just
behind
opened.
you. You seen that? Josh is dealing with a house issue himself. Ooh.
I just bought a house, and now we're reviewing House. This is my house, and it's an old house, kind of like the movie House.
It's house inception. Nice. All right, so let's talk about the actual characters here just a little bit. So we have Roger Cobb, played by the wonderful William Katt of 80s super fame. He's royalty. No, just kidding. Throwing that one back there. He's not royalty. He was almost Luke Skywalker though, as Tim so gallantly puts it.
Well, I mean, he did get to be fucking the greatest American hero.
That theme song is forever in everybody's brain. This was actually one of my favorite roles of him, like, ever. Because I really did enjoy the fact that this had a little bit of a comedic element to it. Plus, it had, obviously the seriousness when he's dealing with the actual danger of what's going on around him when the activity, the poltergeist style activity, really starts to occur and the monsters appear. He's, there's a good act from him in this. And like I said, it's got some good comedy, which he's obviously infamous for. Then we have Norm, otherwise known as Harold, George Wendt, the neighbor, who I like him, but he is obviously a throwaway character. He's meant to kind of help to push the story along. He's there to kind of help and be another method of, I want to say,
he's the comic relief.
Yeah, he's a comic relief, but he's also a method of confirmation for Roger Cobb's character, William Katt's character, Roger Cobb, because there's a time when he basically decides that George Wendt's character Harold is like, he's useful for one main thing. I'm not crazy, and you need to see what the fuck is going on here so that you can prove that I'm not crazy. You know what I mean? So like he kind of becomes useful to Roger Cobb at one point, which is interesting. Then obviously we have his ex-wife who appears throughout the movie, and then we have Tanya, the pool girl, who, interestingly enough, the situation with her son is just really weird and screwed up too. I mean, come on, let's face it, guys. So here he is thinking that he's going to have like a night out with her or something like this, or she's going to like look for a date or something like this, and she's just looking for a playmate for her boy so she can go off.
Babysitter.
Yeah, babysitter, so that she can go off and screw the night away or do whatever the hell she's doing.
Screw the night away.
Screw the night away.
Weird neighbors. My neighbor rolls up, starts using my backyard, starts dropping off their kids, starts coming up into my garage. Nah.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, bud.
No, not at all. All right. The monsters. Let's talk a little bit about some of the effect stuff here, because, in honor of Aaron not being here, let's talk about the other creatures and characters that appear in this and the actual effects work that they put into this. So
the ex-wife kind of becomes like this creature.
Yeah, this real toad-looking, thumpy, stumpy creature at one point that it becomes a little bit of a mindfuck for him too, because he basically she comes at him and he kills her.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, at one point it looks like his wife again, dead. And then, he dismembers the body, and it's, it's actually rotting pieces, and it's actually like the monster itself too, right? So it makes you wonder where the hell these monsters are coming from, because they're not just like ghosts at this point. It's not like it's a haunted house. You know what I mean? There's actually monsters crawling all over the place.
But it is. I mean, it is a haunted house.
It's a house with portals to other dimensions.
Yeah.
It's essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a theme, it's thematic to the way that it moves into the second movie too. It's a very similar method. You know what I mean? It talks about, portals and shit like this. I really like the creature that the wife becomes. the creature that appears as the wife and then but is actually the creature, she was always one of the creepiest. Even growing up watching this movie, she was always just one of the creepiest characters because she was just this disgusting little blob creature, and it was weird. But
she reminds me of something. Sorry, she reminds me of something from like early Doctor Who, where it's a very static, like rubber-looking suit.
Fair enough.
It's funny. My favorite gag in the whole thing, because we're talking about special effects, the hand. That was my favorite part. Like, you know, he's trying to, you know, chase the kid. It's on his back.
Chase the dog at first.
Right. He's trying not to look weird to the fucking Tanya. Right.
Yeah.
And then, like, he gets it in the bathroom and fucking bites its hand and it releases, starts it down the toilet. Like, it was very comedic, but, like, I don't know. That's probably my favorite scene in the whole movie.
Pretty cheesy.
Yeah, it was great.
Cheesy and fun.
Mm-hmm.
The creature in the closet.
Yes.
That's a pretty damn cool looking creature.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of frickin' work that went into that one. Right? Just like it's the same one too that appears out of the cabinet too, isn't it? Or it was slightly different. I think it was different actually, but they're very similar in a way. It was a very Lovecraftian looking creature. Like, you know, it's got the arm and it's got like some tentacle type shit coming off of it and everything else, right? So the one that comes out of the closet, the one that he's trying to prove, you know, to George Wendt's character that, you know, I'm not crazy, this shit's happening. And I like the fact that there's like the step up to it where it has to deal with like a timing. You know, the clock strikes at a certain time.
The portal only opens if you open the closet at midnight.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and he's got all the recording shit set up and everything else. Like I was always into that. You know, back when I was young too, right?
Pigs on and shit, hiding behind. Like, it was funny.
And he does the whole, you know, pull it, run down the stairs, jump over the banister, slide out the front door, and George's like, "Hey, Roger."
Fuck.
Which
standing there letting his dog shit in the yard.
Question of, is this just all in his head and he just has PTSD from serving in Vietnam?
Well, that's what you begin to believe. Like, you begin to believe that, but in the end, I mean, it obviously can't be, because where did his son come from?
Also, and George Wendt, later on, when he's got the goggles on and the fucking fishing line and shit,
he does see.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that proves that it's not in his head, right?
No, but
when
it
goes into the closet or whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, to Josh's point, it's the whole lead up to that. George Wendt's obviously worried about him, right? There's even the point when he kills the creature with the shotgun, and George Wendt calls the police, basically thinking that he had attempted suicide. You know, like, he was worried for him, strictly worried about that. So, you know, it's a good neighborly situation, I guess. You know. When he goes into the medicine cabinet, I like the winged creature.
Yeah. Yep.
That was good mix of stop motion and puppetry. You know, crawling around it, or, you know, flapping its wings around in that open area and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty good. Kind of reminded me of almost like, you know, like an Evil Dead winged deadite creature too. It was kind of cool that way.
Do you want to know what's funny? Evil Dead works its way into every one of our episodes at least once. Did you notice that? It does. And that's not a bad thing. That's just a testament how awesome Evil Dead is. Right?
It's true.
But you're right. I absolutely got that vibe, too, from the winged creature. Like, yeah, this is kind of Evil Dead-ish.
Yeah. Definitely very
Even the monster in the closet that kind of looks like the Kandarian dagger. That's what I first thought when I saw him. He's shaped very similar.
Oh, and the way that he comes through the closet, it kind of reminds you of the what do you call it, the bad apple creature.
Yep.
You know, he coming through the door and shit like that, right? So the tree.
Apple face. Yep.
Apple face. But all in all, one of my favorite effects work in this entire movie is what they did to Bull.
Oh, fuck.
His
Zombie
G.I. Joe is brilliant. It freaked me out as a kid.
Yeah.
Because it was so damn good. And the fact that when you actually look at some of the behind the scenes on this movie, they actually had like servos and shit doing all the talking for him.
Nice.
Right? So it wasn't just him articulating, like the fact that it was like the brows were moving and he was winking and shit like this, it was all like actually like animatronic face that they had on him. And the guy's massive to begin with. Now you're just making him look even scarier as hell, man. Like what the shit? But I like the fact that it creeps into his past. And it does perform a discussion about PTSD at this point because it comes down to the fact that everybody thinks he's just struggling with PTSD and it can't it's all in your head type of thing. There's that constant discussion that people have. I mean, I don't suffer from PTSD, but I know people who do, and I know I know the reality of the situation. But the way that the world looks at it, especially back in a time like in the 80s, where it wasn't taken so seriously, you know what I mean? Somebody could basically be 100% diagnosed with PTSD and have problems. But maybe in this kind of a case, in this movie, it's almost like a projection of where that PTSD is coming from and a physical manifestation of the PTSD coming for him.
Mm.
Especially because it is a historical situation for him. It's something from his past where he had left him to basically die by the hands of the Viet Cong, and it was like a vengeful spirit that had been waiting years to take its revenge, find him and take its revenge. It goes deep. Like when I remember sitting down watching this movie the other day, and at the very end of it, I said, this is a deep story having to do with what active combatants in wartime go through. When they come home.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's nice to see that kind of a thing, kind of take shape, to kind of tell a story about that. But yeah, he's fucking creepy as shit, and he's hell crazy, man. He's hella crazy.
Hella crazy.
Hella crazy, buddy. Hella crazy. I love it. Richard Mall's character is my favorite character in this entire movie, just because of the effects work that they put him onto, and the historical scenes going back to the way that he was in Vietnam. Come on, we've all had a friend like that. We've all had a dickhead friend like that at one point or another that would absolutely put a snake in a can of cigarettes, and scare the shit out of you and stuff like that, right? You guys have anything else to say about effects work?
I thought the overall tone for all the monsters and like the practical effects was like really like on par for like the time, but like I don't know, there's something. Yep, that's an '80s monster, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like that's the vibe I got through the whole thing. My favorite part of the whole thing though is when I watched this as a kid, I was like, there was just something cool about when he goes through and he's in the jungle and then looks back and sees like the doorway in the middle of the woods. Like I was like, I wish I had a room like this in my house. You know what I mean? I wish my house was weird like this. You go into the bathroom in the medicine cabinet and it's like this black void behind there. I love how he looks out the window and he's like, nope. Yeah.
Oh, and then the audio and the sound editing that they did for when it's the black void, and you can hear like the, like the noises and shit. It sounded like very Tron-esque. It was weird, and I like that. It's pretty good.
It is very cool. The effects work. I love all the '80s monsters. I do think that some of the effects work in this one is lacking, especially when you compare it to the sequel. I mean, a lot of the monsters are pretty static. I know you said they had servos in like the last guy, but like the big gray toe-looking Doctor Who monster thing was just like a super big rubber suit, but it was fun.
Okay. Josh.
Yes.
I'd really like to hear your notes, though.
Very well.
Very well.
Very well.
I like how he just switches modes right away. Very well.
This was my first viewing of House 1. It took place September 2nd, 2020 at 8:56 p.m. Is it weird that I never knew this movie existed? despite
Yes.
loving House 2. Pretty weird. I love the chimes in the opening soundtrack. Very Exorcist. So I think this was just kind of an era thing of like early 80s horror movies, and they wanted some soundtrack, just slap in some chimes. So I watched this movie with Allison, and the old lady, as soon as she got hung, like she's just hanging there, and Allison's response was, "Oh dear,
Oh dear.
oh dear." A writer that is going through his emotional problems while writing a horror movie or writing a horror story. I said, I'm surprised Stephen King didn't write this. Fake poker game over the phone. That's George Costanza level sad. When he's like pretending like he's got all these buddies over. All I can think of is the Seinfeld episode where Costanza's going on about how he has to eat an apple when he's on the phone to make it seem like he's doing stuff. Oops, sorry about that. Quote. Are you fucking kidding me? He almost harpoon gunned him. Like, buddy shot his harpoon gun, and
Fucking
it landed
realtor
like
or whatever.
3 inches from his
Illustrator guy?
face.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oops. Sorry. Holy V-neck sweater. This guy's V-neck sweater, if it went any further, his nipples would pop out.
Yep. Deep V. The deep V. Yep.
The greatest
His throat.
V-neck.
It's Norm! He turned the ghost off with the remote.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
what
this creepy old house. What is in the midnight closet? The fuck was that? What in the midnight closet? The fuck was that? That was the first reveal of the big monster. I'm starting to suspect he suffers from PTSD delusions and these monsters aren't real. What the fuck, Norm? Who just comes into someone's house unannounced at midnight? This is the States. Are you trying to get shot?
With pizza.
Yeah. Norm definitely thinks he's shooting some sort of porno or something upstairs with all these cameras. He stole his contact book. Who does that?
Norm.
Evil swordfish. We forgot to talk about the evil swordfish.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Excellent. That's like the
It's definitely creepy.
Spearhead
The screeching.
equivalent of House.
Yeah, the screeching and stuff, and yeah, when he kills it, it was like creepy when it's like dying.
Floating garden tools. Okay. Man, the makeup is pretty bad. It looks like a giant rubber suit. Not gonna lie. Still love it though.
Still love it.
He blasted her away. Is neighbor Norm really gonna cover up a murder right now? Yeah, he does. He's an accomplice at this point. The big gray monster reminds me of something from my childhood, but I can't quite put my thumb on it. And I can't think like what other movie I saw the monster that looked kind of like this monster. You don't bring the corpse out before you dig the hole. What was he thinking? Seriously, these neighbors just make themselves right at home. And then I just wrote, bodily dismember, bud. Only way to go. The hand scene was mega cheesy. Loved it. These neighbors really suck. They're just dropping off their big-eared kids to make you watch them. Can't hide the fact I've been a male prostitute my whole life. Quote. What the hell was he watching?
Oh, wasn't it like his
Watching
wife's?
some
It was
show.
his wife's show.
Yeah, like his wife's sitcom or like like stories, whatever they're called. I love that he just hanged a towel over the fish's eyes in the background. These demons look like a cross between Garbage Pail Kids and Critters. Norm just referred to the raccoon that he thinks in the closet as Cujo. This makes this canon to the horrorverse now. Common Norm shot the Rucker. No idea what I meant by that. Man, Norm is kind of a fuck up at this point. How cool is it that this house has all these little secrets?
Very cool.
Pretty cool.
Very cool.
Again, the arms are pretty bad effects, just rubber Halloween gloves. Big Ben is pretty legit. I could see him scaring some kids and scaring them for life. I love how the cabbie's just waiting. Like, he ain't got time for your reunions, kid. Let's crack this up. And those are my notes on House.
Ooh. So, not a lot of notes compared to what you normally have. So, I will be intrigued to hear Josh's final notes on this, because it's like I'm not really getting the vibe of your final feeling for this movie so far. Normally, when we hear your notes, we can tell. Oh, he fucking hates this, or he loves this, or whatever, right? But
Yep.
I think I know where you're going with this, but I'm not quite sure. Oh, by the way, the creature in the... Two things. One, the creature that's in the closet that comes out at them reminded me of the Reverend Cain creature from Poltergeist 2.
Yes, okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
Definitely.
And second to that, you mentioned the soundtrack that was pretty good. Well, it's Manfredini, the same guy who did the Friday the 13th.
Trivia time with Tim.
Trivia time with Tim coming up. You didn't hear it.
Piece of shit.
All right.
That's my first fucking point.
Hey guys, I'm Felissa Rose, Angela from Sleepaway Camp, and you're listening to They Cast from the Coast. Yeah!
All right, well, fine. So guess what time it is? Trivia time with Tim!
No, it's not.
Why isn't it?
No, it is.
Okay, fine. Trivia time with Tim!
I can't back that up. Okay, so first piece of trivia. Kane Hodder, who was the stunt coordinator for this film, is also known to fans as Jason Voorhees, the iconic Jason Voorhees, for 4 films total. Director Steve Miner also directed Friday the 13th Part 2, which is actually the first to feature adult Jason. Circular. Things circular.
It's all connected.
Circular.
It's all
connected.
According to Fred Decker, the script was originally inspired by the Twilight Zone movie. But after seeing that film, Decker and his friends, which included Ethan Whaley, Steve Miner, and Shane Black, planned to make their own independent anthology movie on video. But the project was never completed, and Decker used the idea for the unproduced segment for this film. So it was originally supposed to be a lot smaller. The next door neighbor, Harold, is obviously played by George Wendt, best known for Norm on Cheers. And it's funny because House 2, the second story, features an appearance of John Rattensberger, who played Norm's best friend, Cliff.
Which I love.
Bill.
Yeah.
Ratzenberger.
The War Demon was an elaborate puppet measuring 18 feet and was operated by 15 people.
Wow.
I'm guessing that's the thing in the closet. They're calling it the war puppet.
Yeah.
Well, they did go to war trying to get its, Okay.
Sean S. Cunningham, the producer, produced Friday the 13th movies, and Harry Manfredi wrote the music for this and the Friday the 13th movies. But that was already fucking ruined because Adam said it. But it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. I'm just moving on. Not even getting mad. Not even mad. Just moving on. The little boy Roger babysits is played by director Steve Miner's young son. The original screenplay by Fred Decker was a traditional horror film with no humor in it at all, but the comedy was added by Ethan Wiley. He rewrote the script, which I think is a good call because I feel that the random comedy made this, I don't know, more fun.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
it added another level to it.
Yeah, layers like an onion.
All right, Shrek.
Glenn Close and Sigourney Weaver were considered for the female lead role, which is kind of weird. Steve Miner leapt at the chance at making this film, as he was largely regarded as the director of horror films, having helmed the second and third installments of Friday the 13th. Sure enough, his next projects after House were Soul Man and the pilot episode of Wonder Years. So he kind of just went somewhere else. This was regarded as a traditional and transitional film by director Steve Miner, who was known mostly for horror films up until this time, but staying within the bankable genre of horror, this film gave him an opportunity to branch off into comedy as well, which helped him springboard successively into other types of future projects. The for sale sign at the beginning of the movie was Craven Realty, which is probably a nod to Wes Craven. In Hong Kong, this movie was known as Don't Go Into the Haunted House After Midnight.
I'd watch that.
I'd watch the fuck out of that, based on the name alone. Aunt Elizabeth, played by Susan French in this movie, is referred to as Mrs. Hooper, possible nod to horror icon Toby Hooper. This film, the trailer's narrated by Percy Rodriguez. I don't know who that is. And just touching on the soundtrack again, Harry Manfredi did the music for Friday the 13th, and you can absolutely hear the similarities between the music cues in both this movie and Friday. And to end it off, I have some goofs, which are always fun to add to trivia time. When the cops arrive, the officer says, "I know you, right? You're Roger." You can see the boom mic reflected in the visor of his police cap. Also a boom mic is in one of the first scenes in which Roger's inspecting the haunted closet. He turns to leave the room, and a moving boom mic shadow is clearly visible in the upper left-hand corner. I also have some continuity, but there's way too many to fucking go through, so I'm just going to say one or two. In the scene where Sandy visits Roger's house, I can't speak tonight, I apologize. In the scene where Sandy visits Roger's house, the cross on her necklace changes position and back throughout the whole scene. So I guess the cross keeps moving. The rope that Roger lowers into the black hole in the medicine cabinet is smooth cotton rope, but when you see him sliding down it, it's a rough hemp rope. And when Roger enters the room armed with a shotgun to shoot the stuffed marlin, you will notice crew members' entire arm and wristwatch in the scene to the left. The crew member was most likely holding that fucking boom mic that keeps popping up throughout the movie. And that is trivia and goof time with Tim.
Trivia goof time with Tim.
Thank you for adding that into the overall theme.
Excellent. All right, gentlemen. It is time for us to correlate our final thoughts on this. Tim?
Correlate. Makes it sound like fucking... I don't know. All right, go.
Tim.
Yes.
You first.
All right. Well, I watched this, obviously, when I was a kid and loved it. I loved the idea of a house that had, like, fucking other dimensional portals and shit. And just that iconic... I'll never forget that iconic... walking through the woods and he sees, like, the doorway in the middle of the woods. Like, I don't know why that stuck with me. I fucking love that. Watching it this time, okay, so I watched this maybe last year before was the last time I watched this movie. But watching this time, I picked up on something. This movie reminds me of Stephen King.
Yeah.
Like, it's absolutely got Stephen King tropes.
It's got the writer who's going through mental anguish.
Yeah, and like the whole story is like a metaphor for something else, but it's instead of it being an actual metaphor, the shit's actually happening to him. Like, just the whole vibe gave me Stephen King, which I'm a huge Stephen King fan, so that was really big points. But watching this again for the show, one of the things that I absolutely loved, I loved the soundtrack.
Mhm.
The acting wasn't as cringy as I remember it when I was watching it last year. Like, I actually dug it this time. Like, Maul's character of him, the big zombie G.I. Joe. Like, I loved him. He was the greatest thing about this movie. But I mean, I want to give credit to William Pat. Like, he was a good protagonist.
He carries the movie.
Absolutely carries the movie, and you know, it's kind of a fucked up movie. Like, back in '85, like, it's a fucked up movie. Now, you know, it's not as fucked up, but I don't know. I really dug the soundtrack. I really dug all the practical effects. Some of them were better than others. I like how all the monsters looked like they were made by the same people. Like, there was like a consistency throughout. They all looked like they were from the same place. Do you know what I mean?
Color palettes and the shapes.
Yeah, like, even when they got, like, you know, some of the more elaborate designs, they still all looked like, hey, they're from this one alternate reality or this one other dimension or whatever, right? I thought the humor was good. I thought the situations that he kept getting himself into, and then fucking, like, like, it's just, it was really good. I liked it. It's a lot better than I remembered it as a kid. Because, I mean, you know, I liked, obviously, House 2 better. I've always liked House 2 better, but this one was pretty good. I'm going to give this movie a very well-deserved PG. It's not my favorite out of all of, you know, because I didn't even know until recently they made a House 3 and 4. Had no idea. No idea.
What?
Yeah.
It suffers from the situation that number 3 was never actually meant to be a House movie. It was a different story, a different script, and they basically shoved the House name on it to try to capitalize. And it's a straight out horror movie. There's no comedy to it. There's no extra monsters and effects and all this kind of shit. It's about like a serial killer who basically escapes death and comes after the cop that put him away and his family. It's called The Horror Show, but it's a straight out fucking serious horror movie. Like, it's, a lot of people say it has because it doesn't. It has nothing to do with the House series and anything else. It just takes place in a house. That's literally the only thing that's similar to it. But then part 4 is a direct sequel to the first one, which has to do with Roger Cobb. Basically, it's a follow up to Roger Cobb and his family. Yeah, part 4.
Can I finish?
Yes, you may.
I want to give this a higher rating, but I can't because I feel like I would be cheating on House 2. And the movie's not as good as House 2, in my opinion, and I can't give them the same ratings. But one of the things that I do have to say is that one of the most appealing things about this story is that Roger doesn't respond like a normal cliche horror protagonist.
Nope.
You know, running away, falling flat in his face, hiding under the sink. Instead, this motherfucker buys camcorders. And I'm going to get this fucking thing on video and, like, try to capture what's going on to prove to everybody that he's not insane. Like, that's not a normal horror trope. You know what I mean? Like, and I really appreciate that. So, yeah, this movie gets a PG from me.
Nicely done. Nicely said. Okay, I'll go next. Josh, I'm going to save you for last. Tim, the last thing that you said was exactly the first thing that I was actually going to say, which is kind of funny.
Good.
Because
Motherfucker.
because the one thing that I absolutely adore about this movie is that William Katt's character, Roger Cobb, is not the atypical, horror character like from a movie. There's no standard trope about this guy. He runs to the problems. He doesn't know what he's seeing is real or not, so he's out there trying to prove whether he's going crazy or that it's real. You know what I mean? So, like you said, he's got the cameras, he pulls people into the situation, but yeah, he runs to the danger. So,
He
when
is the danger.
he is the danger, but he runs to the danger. So, like, when the Marlin's going crazy on the wall and the shit's chasing him, the floating hedge clippers and shit, a lot of people would be like, "That's it, I'm gone," and they just move out and they leave, or they die because they're running away. No, he stands up to all that shit. Heck, he went as far as killing a monster, dismembering the body, and burying it instead of just calling somebody and saying, "Do you see this shit?" You know what I mean? Like, he's just like, sweep it under the rug, man. That's crazy. I do have some fond memories of this movie, watching this movie growing up. I do love this movie, and I do love the second movie, and I can't wait to talk about that one too. This one was always, even though it was comedic, it was always a little bit darker than the second movie. So it had its elements to it because, like I said, the whole idea behind the PTSD, in my opinion, and how it's manifesting itself and everything else. And the main villain in this, which turns out to be Richard Mall's character, is dope as shit. And in
Big
my
Ben.
opinion, Big Ben, he's one of the coolest looking zombie monster creatures of the 80s. Just like a hero creature in that case, because of the fact that he's also not just like a zombie. No, he's like a walking, talking, spits out, funnies, and he's literally trying to murder William Katt's ass. Like, that's what he's doing. He's literally trying to murder him. And it's cool. I like it. Right down to the whole his arm comes off. William Katt tries to beat him with it, and he just grabs it back and stuffs it back on.
What the fuck?
It's just like, "Get it back here!" And William Katt trying to beat him to death with his own arm. It's hilarious. Like I said, I do have a lot of love for this movie, but looking back on it and watching it again, because I haven't seen it for about 10 years now. Looking back on it, it does have its kind of cringy moments, and in all honesty, it's a good movie, but it's not that top shelf quality. It's just something that, like, you look at the poster art. I love the poster art for this, with the severed hand, opening up the door. Iconic.
Isn't that House 2?
They're the same thing, basically.
I legit just looked them both up. House 1 it's ringing the doorbell.
Oh, ringing the doorbell.
House 2, it has the key.
Yeah.
I just made the thumbnails.
Nice. While I love this movie, I have to agree with Tim. I'm going to have to give it a solid rating on a PG. I'm this close to giving it an R.
Yeah.
But it's like, PG. I got to go with a PG. High end, solid PG. But it's
Top tier PG.
Top tier PG. Third shelf.
Real
Shelf.
nice.
It's there. Real nice. Josh, we would love to hear what you have to say about this movie.
Okay. I'm torn. Because this movie follows, like, all my rules.
Ooh, yeah.
It's a great fucking cheesy movie. But I'm also torn because I love House 2 so much.
Don't you feel like you're cheating on it?
Not
talking
even
about
that. I feel like I'm let down. I'm like, this is what I get when I go backwards and figure out what's going on with House 1. There's no Crystal Skull. There's no Slim Razor. There's no Gramps.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? This is horrible. This is not even the same house.
No.
But yeah, I don't know. Because I like.
Let it out, Josh. Just let it out.
Come on, buddy. Give it to us.
It is, in my opinion, a disappointment. After seeing House 2 probably 100 times when I was a kid, and just now seeing the origin story, except for it has nothing to do with House 2 whatsoever. It doesn't even take place in the same house. Why wouldn't they use the same house?
I don't know. That's a good question because I'll admit I
Now
actually
I'm
like the
supposed to
house in the
expand my
first one
belief.
better.
Now I'm supposed to expand my belief to there being 2 haunted houses with interdimensional portals in the States?
That just
Well,
doesn't
is that
happen.
really that hard? Because there probably is, and it probably is.
But there's 2 of them.
I don't know. I thought House 1's house was very cool. It looks a lot like my house that I just
fair.
bought.
That's
Like
fair.
the doors are those old glass doors, the old keyholes. So now I'm just waiting, open a closet at midnight, half asleep.
Get a rubber poop
Boom,
monster jump out at you.
Poop
Rubber.
monster.
Rubber poop monster.
I don't even think I can give this a PG.
Oh, really?
Mm,
Even on the merits of the fact that it covers almost all of your rules?
that's why I'm torn. That is why I'm torn. I do love Norm. Norm's pretty funny in this movie.
I just love the scene where William Cat jumps out the door and he like lands on his knees and there's Norm with his dog shitting in his yard. Hey, buddy.
And what? He's just weird. So he's carrying around this guy's book and it's all like torn pages and he's just been carrying it in his pocket for 2 years, trying to get his autographs, covering up murders for him. It's a strange dynamic. And you guys are all hot and horny for Big Ben, but Big Ben don't step to Slim Razor at all. Slim Razor's way cooler.
Yeah, I'd argue that, but okay.
Calm down,
Mm,
fellas. Calm down.
no.
Fuck you say about Big Ben?
He's a bitch. Slim Razor would fuck him up. It's got no Crystal Skull. It's not a house movie. That's the most agitating part.
Oh my
but the
gosh.
worst of it is the house movie. And House 2's the one that's not a house movie.
And the thing is the thing is the thing is the thing! And the thing is the thing!
I was waiting for a moment like this all night so far, Josh. Thank you.
I don't even know. I'm so confused. I don't even know.
All right, Josh,
Because
just rate the
everything I
damn
know
thing.
about the House series, I'm speechless. I don't even like the fucking effects are giant rubber suits, which I love. That's not a negative. I love shitty old rubber suit monsters, and they did all practical effects, and but no Crystal Skull, and no Slim Razor, and no Gramps,
And no little grub creature.
and no little Puppa Pillar or whatever the fuck it's called.
Puppa Pillar.
I gotta give it a G.
Oh.
I gotta.
Oh.
I gotta push it down with my thumb and say, you did bad. You should have done better. You could have been better. You should have been more like House 2, and House 2 should have been so great.
That's the best part.
You should have been like the movie that didn't exist.
Right? I just don't understand why they would. I don't know. This movie just disappoints me. After almost probably like 27 years, 26 years later, after discovering the first House and finding out that it's not a house movie, except for that it is a house movie, and the movie you thought was a house movie is not a house movie at all. It has nothing to do with the House series. That's what I just came to grips with. There's some
100%.
serious mental anguish happening right now.
I mean, take it for what it is. The House series was obviously intended to be, and then, like John Carpenter's original vision for Halloween. It was supposed to be different stories. It wasn't supposed to necessarily be the same story. Come on, Josh. Give it some credit.
I'll give it
come on, buddy.
credit where credit is due. Norm was funny in it. It had a lot of great cheesy monsters. If this wasn't House 1, it would probably get an R from me. I'm not even gonna lie.
What?
Not even gonna lie.
But you're gonna give it a G just because it pales in comparison to your
Because
favorite
it
of the
pissed me
two.
off. It pissed me off. How? That's okay.
How dare you be the original?
Listen, this is like Tim seeing Halloween and never seeing a sequel, and then 26 years later, he's like, "Oh, H2O, they made another Halloween. Neat." And then you pop it in, and it's like, "What the fuck is this?"
We're
Or
like,
Yeah,
it's
but you're
Season of the
doing
Witch.
no. You're doing the opposite thing. Oh shit! I fucking love
No, no.
H2O. H2O is amazing.
No,
I
no.
fucking love
This
Season
is
of the Witch.
this is yeah. I was gonna say this is like Tim
I
seeing.
fucking love Season of the Witch. This movie's so great. And then you're like, "Oh, there's a whole series. It's all about Season of the Witch."
Who
I
the
can't
hell's
wait.
this Michael Myers dick
Who's this fucking goofball in the fucking
in the William Shatner
William
look?
Shatner mask? This isn't Season of the Witch at all.
I
This
like
is-
my
this is what
silver
just happened
shamrock
to me.
masks.
Wow.
Oh, Josh, you're a goof. All right, so Josh gives this a G then, folks. G. Because
Contested
it's not
G.
House 2.
That's the problem. That's the real problem.
Why can't
This
you
was
be
just
like
House
the
2.
movie that wasn't
Why couldn't you just
made?
be House 2?
Why couldn't you be better? Oh, Josh pleads. Josh pleads. All right, gentlemen, that has been a good discussion for the evening,
Hey,
and I'm
bye.
still fucking confused as to why Josh is giving this a G when he loves it
too.
so much.
I'm
Yet he
fucking
doesn't even
confused, too.
understand it.
It was a great movie.
It's a great movie, but it sucks because it's not a house movie, but it is a house movie.
Wow.
Okay. All right, guys, great discussion. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight to listen to us rant and rave about the fact that House is a house movie, but it's not a house movie, and House 2 is not the house movie, and whatever have you. Whatever the hell Josh was going on about. So,
Yeah, really.
please, like, share, and subscribe. Check us out on Facebook, Misunderstood Our Company. We're also on YouTube, Misunderstood Our Company. Once again, like, share, subscribe, tell everybody about us, and every week we put out new content. We're also available on all the major podcasting platforms, including, but not limited to, Google Play, Spotify, and iTunes. We're also on Patreon. Open up your hearts and your wallets. Buy some coffee for the crew, because that keeps us up at night so we can watch these horror movies and actually kind of, give you the rundown on those movies. And until next time, Josh.
House movie is only a house movie if it has the elements of House. Except for all the elements that I know of House come from House 2, which do not share the same elements of House, so it's not a house movie. So I'm in some sort of dimension through a portal where house movies aren't house movies, and that's where I'm at.
Not even going to try to follow that one. Tim!
Stay safe, stay spooky. Everyone.
See you next time, everybody.
Good
Bye.
night. Whoa, what's this? I do this every episode, say goodnight. What do you do with saying goodnight too?
I didn't. I said bye.
No.
Replay the tapes.
Replaying the tapes. Bye. See you later, everybody.
Good night.